Monday on Daily Delivery. Welcome, everybody. Patrick Reusse here with me. I am Michael Rand. Patrick, a lot to get to today. I want to talk some Twins, some Vikings, a little bit of golf, but I want to get your impression. And actually, in a minute here, I'm going to play the full quote from Rocco Baldelli, the Twins manager, but basically acknowledging on Sunday kind of what everybody, it's not a big house secret, I guess, but you don't necessarily hear teams saying this or people saying this very often, that basically acknowledging that the Twins are heading into a rebuild. It was just nice of him to say it, I guess. And with Kenta Maeda maybe missing all of next season, that should probably become obvious. But what did you make of what Rocco had to say? And then I'll play that quote in a little bit.
Well, I think we all realized that this was where we were headed, even though when they made all the trades at the end of July, they were saying this is, we think we are going to be really good next year. And the lingo on the broadcasts and, the radio guys aren't as bad as the TV guys, but the lingo we were getting was that, we think we're going to really be good next year. That was the Falvey line. That was the Falvey line. That was the sort of the inside the organization line. And then now Rocco comes out and, lineup wise, this doesn't have to be a rebuild. The lineup's okay. But,
sure.
Pitching is god awful now. And now you don't have Maeda, you don't have Berrios. Next year, you go into next year with no starters. Bailey Ober, I'm not ready to declare established starters because they won't let him pitch over 5 innings,
Right.
It won't let him throw more than 70, 75, 80 pitches. I got to see him throw 105 pitches and go 7 innings a few times before I say, okay, he's a big league starter. There's hope for him, but there's nothing else. This kid for the Olympics who's pitched okay in St. Paul has pitched good, but he's only pitching 4 or 5 innings.
Right.
You got to see somebody. They have at this point no established starting pitchers. And Jim wrote a column today saying, well, they got to go out and get the most, go out and make a bid for the biggest starter there is. Well, why? Because I think it would be great, but then what happens? Then you need 4 instead of 5, right? I guess their only chance here is pitcher development. The only chance to get out of this mess is pitcher development. They went from 4th, and I've said this 20 times. They went from 4th in ERA to 28th.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
They made really bad decisions.
Yes, they did. But they brought this upon themselves. There's no doubt about it. If you were going to go out and spend money on pitching, this was the off season to do it. When you had something, it wasn't, do it next year, because there's nothing. You don't get anywhere without developing your own pitchers right now. You have to develop 3 or 4 pitchers, and starting pitchers. By that I mean starting pitchers. Hey, Mike, this came to me the other day when I was watching him pitch relief. Caleb Thielbar is going to be the Twins pitcher of the year.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that.
Yeah, Berrios gone since July 31st. Rogers shut down on July 26th. Who is your pitcher of the year? A 36-year-old guy who wasn't in the big leagues for 5 years, who's a hell of a guy, but who's your pitcher of the year? They have none.
Maybe Andrew Albers, the other 35-year-old who hasn't been in the league for 5 years, will end up being it.
Well, I said he was the starter for the Twins this year. Saints this year on opening day. He'll be the starter for the Twins next year on opening. He's a great guy too, but 5 1/3. Let's go here with that 86-mile-an-hour fastball. It is a pitching disaster right now, and there's no way that you can get out of it between now and next March. There's just nothing you can do.
Well, I was texting you about that the other day when we saw the rotation once Maeda was out of it, and it went Griffin Jacks, Bailey Ober, and then Albers was in there, Charlie Barnes, and
Charlie Barnes.
Who was the fifth? I can't even remember who the fifth was at this point. But
I can't remember. But yeah, no, you asked me if it had ever been this bad, and certainly name wise, it hadn't been that bad. 2000. Some of the
16,
ERAs, 11 and 16. Some of those ERAs in 2016 were unbelievable, but those were Gibson. I mean, that was Gibson, who at least was a big league pitcher having a horrible year. Guys like that.
John Gant was the other one.
Yeah, as far as nobodies, as far as a collection of nobodies, this is number one by far. I would, when you go back like 81, they were terrible, but they had Frankie, going 6 and 15. And you looked at Frankie and said, yeah, he's going to be good. And you didn't know how good he was going to be, but you saw that he was just a guy trying to learn his trade. He was a young guy. Ober. Okay. Yeah. He's got a shot.
He's got a chance. Yeah.
But he's got a shot, but he ain't going to be Frank Viola. He doesn't have that mix of pitches. And right now they're stuck, man. And people, they had a nice crowd because of Brewers fans on Saturday night. They had 29,000, but they're pretty much stuck in the 17 to 20,000 customer range in one of the greatest summers you've ever had for going to baseball games. People have given up on them. They are in desperate straits with the public. I think this is a horrible situation. The game's in trouble, and they are in bigger trouble than the game. This is a crowded sports market, and people have just basically, between the pandemic and everything else, first of all, staying away and being as disappointed as they are in this group, and then have Rocco offering us pablum and nobody ever talking the truth. And we finally got a little truth out of them, but they are in terrible shape right now. The Twins financially, I think too, they're going to, I don't know how many season tickets they sold this year, but I bet they don't sell 6,000-7,000 next year. I bet it's bad to the bad. These are the bad old days right now, in my opinion.
The rebuild could save him some money too. Let's play the Rocco quote before we get too deep into this. Here's Rocco. I think it was pregame Sunday. He got asked kind of about, how are they thinking about the roster for the rest of this season, how they're thinking about the off season. And he took it in a pretty interesting direction. So here is Rocco Baldelli from Sunday.
This is the way that you have to rebuild yourself on a regular basis in this game. Especially in an organization, it's not the payroll of the Dodgers or the Yankees, and you build teams differently when you have a different, when you're in different places. And this is exactly what I've always kind of anticipated and thought could happen at some point. That I knew it was going to be right now, absolutely not. But you do have to find ways to, develop your own players and find other players that are going to help you win games in a big way at the major league level.
So I think the piece that made my ears perk up, and I think Jim Souhan latched onto this one too in his column, was when Rocco said, this is the way that you have to rebuild yourself on a regular basis in this game, especially in an organization that doesn't have the payroll of the Dodgers or the Yankees. And that's true by and large, but you don't usually hear people say the quiet part out loud, especially when you're the Twins, do you?
Yeah, and explain Tampa.
Exactly. That's the other thing I was going to say.
The lowest payroll in baseball. Explain Tampa. Make good decisions. Figure stuff out. Develop some pitchers. Develop. We've talked about it before. If that was supposed to be Falvey's deal, developing pitcher. 2016. They got the job in 2016. It's 5 years later. I know they missed a year of minor leagues, but in 2020, one reason they're not developing pitchers is they're so damn careful with them. They never let anybody get a foundation under them. Anytime anybody has a twinge of any kind, they don't pitch. They don't have anybody pitching 120 innings in the minor leagues. That's a prospect ever. You got to have a foundation to be a starting pitcher. You can't just, pitch 90 innings in the minor leagues and then say, okay, now we're going to make you pitch. Now we're going to ask them to pitch 160. Doesn't work that way. They don't give these guys any foundation. They're so damn careful with everybody.
And they still get hurt.
Yeah, they still get hurt. One reason is they don't have a foundation.
Yeah.
Make them pitch through something, for God's sakes. It's this team, it is a very hard team to enjoy. But I am glad they're getting on a plane and flying to Detroit today for that all-important game with the Tigers. What's that?
No, I forgot.
Look back through the schedules of baseball, okay? Bad teams always were playing 160, and they weren't making up games that are meaningless. Guess what? There's no reason for the Twins to go to Detroit to play this game. It means nothing to the Tigers, and it means nothing to the Twins. And the Tigers don't have a fan base. They don't have a season ticket base either that you have to satisfy. Why is this being done? It's so stupid.
Probably like performance incentives and draft position, but that's all I could think of while you were rolling there. But it means nothing in the standings. It doesn't. No,
and it's traditional in baseball that say, okay, if one of the we got rained out our last time we went, we're in your town, and if it means anything, we'll make it up on the day after the season ends. Well, there's no chance this one will mean anything. It is. It's ridiculous. I mean, that's a minor thing to be complaining about today, but it's just stupid. It just shows the stupidity that surrounds this game right now. Some of it located here.
What last thing on the Twins before we move on to the Vikings and some golf? When do you think they realized, they being the Twins and Rocco, Falvey, Levine, the Brain Trust, when do you think they realized that this was as bad as we thought it was for a while now? Was there like a moment? Was it July? Was it? Do you think the Maeda injury, does that push them over the edge? How recently do you think they came to the conclusion that this is not going well?
Oh no, it came before the Maeda injury for sure. It came. I mean, they've known it for 6 weeks.
They had to have, right?
Yeah, 6 weeks. Yeah, they've known it for 2 months. For God's sakes, they knew it early July. They knew it before the All-Star game that this was going nowhere. There's actually a couple of things to feel better about if you're those guys. Is that maybe we can bring Sano back next year and he can hit 235 and not strike out 50% of the time. Because, he's actually had a little bit of an approach at the plate lately. And there's, Polanco's been great there. They need a shortstop. Donaldson looks usable in some sense. I think, to me, it's if you plan to compete in any way, you're a hell of a lot better off spending your money on Buxton and hoping that he plays than going out and trying to sign a very expensive pitcher to help a pitching staff that's got no chance right now. But they've known for a long time. They're just not willing to say it. But one of our big problems too, Mike, is in the Zoom era and the lack of contact era and the whole thing is for the reporters, it's harder to run into these guys and talk to, track down these guys and do the whole thing and talk to them and try to figure out what they think here.
That's true.
And these guys are, Falvey, and I like Falvey, I like Levine, I like both of them, but they're BSers. They're not gonna flat out say, boy, do we stink. So, and at least they don't have Sandy Alderson's problem in New York. Is that the greatest story ever?
The guys putting their thumbs down.
Thumbs down to the fans. They're 8-19 this month.
Right.
8-19 this month, and you bring in Baez because he's Lindor's buddy. Lindor's making $321 million. He's been terrible, and he's given the fans a thumbs down.
It's great.
Sandy,
it's so New York.
Yeah, I love Sandy. I know him from way back when with Oakland, and he's got to be 70 something, doesn't he? He's got to be like.
He was the architect of those '80s teams, wasn't he?
Yes. The
He and
age.
LaRusso were kind of hand in hand.
Yeah, he's got to have a twitch in his forehead like he's having an aneurysm when he says, "What the hell are you doing, you dummies? We spend all this money on you. Lindor's making $321 million, and we're doing thumbs down to the fans because we stink." Unbelievable. I love athletes because some of them can be such idiots. It's unbelievable.
Alderson 73. I like the real-time fact checking I can do when I just have everything information at your fingertips.
Anyway, I just wanted to throw
that's
that
great. I saw that last night. I was like, wow, that's only going to make it worse. I mean,
and Baez goes up and brings the kid with him for the sympathy. You bring the baby with you.
That's what you
do. I
do.
don't care if you got a baby or not. You're still a moron, okay? But baby with moron should have been the picture. Oh, shit.
Baby should have been wearing that T-shirt
onesie.
Patrick, I started something a week or two ago about the Vikings. So every time something happens, I play a little sound effect to signify my dings of concern. And Irv Smith Jr. is the latest. Let's play it right now. Yeah, so that means what? Irv Smith reportedly has got a meniscus problem. He's going to miss. Sounds like he's going to miss the start of the year at least. Don't know exactly how long. Those things can be relatively quick with surgery, but
yes.
When Jimmy Butler had that in the 17-18 season with the Wolves, that's the one that jumps to mind right away. That was like a 3 or 4 week injury. He missed like 17 regular season games. So NBA, that's a little bit longer than 3-4 weeks. But, he's not their best player, but everybody kept talking about him having a breakout season and just add it to all the other little things, Patrick.
Yes, it is. And, I'm interested in a bunch of, I still think they have enough good players that they're not going to be bad. Okay. But they could be 10-7, 9-8, they could be in that range. They should have been better than that. But, it's just been nothing good has happened since the first day of practice is the problem, right? Nothing good has happened. Nothing that said, wow, that's really going to help. Kellen Mond is not your backup quarterback. He might have to play, and certainly, you said you were listening to Spielman on the radio TV simulcast, and Mond throws an interception right away, and he blames it on the receiver and making excuses. I said this on Twitter. Why didn't they, if that Minshew got traded for a 6th rounder, why didn't they give him a 5th rounder? They need a backup quarterback.
They traded a 5th rounder for a kicker they didn't keep. So why couldn't they trade? Remember when they got Kari Vidvik for a 5th round pick?
Yes, I remember that. But they don't want to admit that they didn't, because they bragged so much about taking Kellen Mond that they don't want to admit it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe 3 years from now he's going to be a player, right. But he's far from ready to play now if something would happen to Cousins. And, Cousins not going to get hurt, but he might get COVID again, so he might get, he might end up in quarantine or something. So this is not a year, I don't think, in the NFL with the COVID flying around again that you can go without a backup quarterback. Do you think so?
Especially when your starter's not vaccinated. If you feel like it's, if you feel like your starter's vaccinated, that there's, it's only like any other year with the injury risk. But with Cousins right now, and with, Mond, I thought looked a little bit better at times on Friday, but, probably later in the game when, probably was down to the 3rd string largely for both teams. But he has not looked to me like someone who can go in and, he can run. So, in a pinch, he might be kind of like that change of pace that can help you for a quarter or two. He doesn't seem like the guy's going to help you for 3 or 4 games if something happened to Cousins.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
I thought it was idiotic when Tim Walz offered people $100 to get a vaccine. get vaccinated. And I keep getting notices from the health department that I could get $100 for a vaccination, even though I've had it. So that their paperwork isn't real good. But do you think that the Vikings just gave a guy $64 million so he would be vaccinated?
Harrison Smith.
Do you think Harrison Smith had to agree to get vaccinated before they gave a $64 million contract?
That's a good question. I don't think they can do that.
26
suggest
guaranteed. 26 guaranteed. I think that I think that maybe they said, Harrison, we'll give you a new contract only if you get vaccinated. So he's apparently that's a very expensive bribe for a vaccination.
It's also a very big contract for a
32. I didn't realize he was 32.
Yeah.
Damn, my old. I was
this
thinking
is his 10th. This is his 10th year. This is his 10th year. He was 2012 draft, right?
Although they can basically get out of it after what, next year or 2 years?
Yeah, right. The way these things are structured, right? It's the little
26 million guaranteed. But I'm kind of surprised. What was the need to do this? Is he up? Was he? Or you only had 1 year left?
I think this is his last. This is the last year of his contract.
Okay. So
I'm still waiting for O'Neal too. That's the next one that they've got to do is the O'Neal extension.
That's going to be that's going to be a lot more of it's going to be guaranteed than that. So, but they're really a mystery, man. I think we said this a couple 3 weeks ago. I can't remember a Viking season where I'm a week before the opener and I have such a non-firm opinion on where they're
all over the map. Such a high range. Yeah,
because the division stinks. The Packers, they get shut out. We're supposed to feel good about Jordan Love. I mean, Rodgers hasn't played yet, but I think they're ordinary, and the other two teams stink. So they get to go kick the hell out of Cincinnati in the opener, right? If they lose that one, then you got problems. They stink. So I think that they'll go there, win by 2 touchdowns, and run the ball down their throats, and everybody will be happy. But where this thing is headed, I have no idea right now.
Yep. And
I'm just hoping they make the playoffs because I don't want to lose them because I don't want some 38-year-old BSer to be their coach. So anyway.
You referenced Spielman. That was one thing that kept me watching that game Friday. They had the Vikings GM in the booth with PA, and that game was simulcast, so the TV feed was the same, and it just it was good. It was good of him to do it, but it was kind of comical because Mond had 2 turnovers during that time. You're right, when he did he overthrew somebody. Spielman said, I think the receivers got to give him a little bit better effort there, something like that, and just like bad things happening while he was in the booth. Just uncomfortable moments are what I live for in the preseason. Well,
there were a few years there when I had the radio show, and we would go down to Mankato, and K-Fan would be set up like right behind the goalposts. And then our station, we'd be down at some bar down the corner, way down, and what was going on at the field was a rumor and everything. So, but we were down. we were in Mankato. We got Rick to come over one day.
You did, okay.
Break. Rick came over, and about 5 minutes in, I finally said, you can say nothing better than anybody I've ever seen. He never came back after that. But he drives me nuts. He says nothing. I love the draft preview when he has the big draft preview press conference, which he says, we've been taking a lot of phone calls, and that's supposed to get us all excited. Oh, we've been taking. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Take a lot of phone calls. He drives me crazy. He says nothing.
Did you see the Wise Owl had a piece on Zimmer, the yearly piece on Zimmer maybe giving up play calling duties for the defense?
Right. Yeah.
This of all years, I don't think so.
No, God, no chance. And by the way, give it to the Sun, for goodness sakes. Hey, by the way, did you know this, that Alfred Smith, the new 39-year-old coach of the Falcons, is the son of the FedEx billionaire?
No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Huh.
He's the son of the FedEx billionaire.
I didn't know that.
His old man's worth like 50-some billion dollars.
Amazing.
So, and they kind of picked this guy out of obscurity. And by the way, they stink too. Anyway, I just noted that as a note. Let's talk about Bryson.
Yes, just going to move to that. Have you
Bluto?
What?
I call him Bluto.
Bluto. It was a great playoff.
It's fantastic.
But Bryson is he's unlike any golfer I've ever seen. He's so talented, but I don't still remember golf having a sustained and well drawn like this, so well drawn villain. But everybody, he's picking fights and people don't like him, and it's not an act. I don't think he's a very nice person. What is it?
Here's the other thing.
Okay.
Doug Ferguson has been covering golf for 100 years for AP, right? And there's these guys, golf writers are the easiest audience there are. They love the sport. They're all my age. Well, they're not my age, but they're old. They've been doing it forever. And they treat these guys with the ultimate respect. They ask them what club they hit instead of, is that story about your drunken driving crew or something? They basically are the easiest crowd there is for covering something, because all these guys are treated with dignity. He's not talking to anyone in the media now ever since the Olympics. Nobody, except if they're an official partner of the PGA Tour. In other words, I guess the Golf Channel or places like that, but he's not talking to Doug Ferguson and guys like that who've been kissing up and promoting golf for 40 years. He's feuding with those guys too because of some reason. And here's the thing: he and Cantlay have one of the greatest. I was fixated on golf all afternoon and stayed with them. And hell, they played. It was almost dark. They already going to play one more hole, and it was great. Cantlay made some putts, and then DeChambeau, after he hits it in the creek, ends up hitting this ungodly, wonderful shot to keep the playoff going. And now it ends, and he stomps off, and he basically gives Cantlay the 1 second handshake. After that, nobody in history's ever had a playoff like that where they didn't sit in the middle of the green for 15 seconds and tell each other how wonderful it was, right? This guy goes stomping away, doesn't talk to anybody. What a jerk. And he's Bluto, and he plays this mechanical game. He hits the thing 800 miles. He should be the hero of the youth of America, right? They love power. They love that stuff. I root against him, and I thought it was something that happened on the green that he was barking at Cantlay, but he was getting ready to hit his shot, and Cantlay was walking.
Okay, yeah,
the other side of the fairway, and, walking while DeChambeau was still trying to figure out what club he was going to hit, and he yelled over to, "Can you stop the walking there, Patrick?" or something like that.
Okay, well.
So Cantlay, according to the TV guys, Cantlay had who's a pretty well stoical guy, was fuming about it the rest of the day, and this guy, but it was great. It was great.
Yeah.
They ripped that place up though, Caves Valley, and I don't think they had a tournament there in 20 some years, but yesterday the average score was 68.5 there. They just tore it up, but just not long enough, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it was a great playoff, and you're right. Golf's got a villain, and they probably need one.
Yeah, the thing with him and Koepka is great. Koepka doesn't. Koepka hates him, and these guys are going to be Ryder Cup teammates, right? How's that?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Steve Stricker had to. The captain had to call them and get them on Zoom conference calls to make sure they could agree to play with each other. And Koepka says, "Yeah, I could put up with him for a week." Was his quote to somebody. "I could put up with him for a week."
Sounds like an uneasy truce at best, doesn't it?
It does. Sounds like, yeah, it does. It does. But it's good for the game, I guess. God, it takes him a long time to play a hole of golf, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
it does.
He takes forever. And the other thing, but don't you get the impression he's rattling off his numbers and angles and everything just for show to show how intellectual he is too? That's 29 degrees, blah, blah, blah. He does hit the ball, though, places that nobody ever dreamed it could be hit. That's for sure.
Yep. Well, it was fun. Fun playoff and fun show today. Patrick Reusse, thanks so much for joining Daily Delivery. We'll do this again next week. We got some bonus episodes this week, everybody. By the way, I'll be out at the fair a couple times. I think Lindsay Whalen and Chris Finch. So look for those in addition to the regular shows as well. Patrick, have a great week. We'll see you Monday next week.
One last thing.
Yeah.
America's oldest college football team, 26, Ohio State, 24. I can feel it coming.
Whoa. We'll talk about that next Monday for sure.
All right. See ya. Goodbye.
Bye.